All right, it's now time to talk some football here on this Friday edition of the SportsMax Zone. Reggae Boyz boss Steve McLaren has officially gotten his feet wet as the man at the helm for the Jamaican football with a draw against Cuba and a win against Honduras in his first two competitive games as manager of the Black, Green and Gold. Well, early on Friday, the Englishman named his second ever squad in his 2-month-old tenure ahead of Jamaica's upcoming CONCACAF Nations League matches against Nicaragua and Honduras. Well, let's take a closer look now at the squad. For the goalkeepers, Andre Blake, Shaquan Davis and Jamali Waite. Defenders, Damian Lowe, Ethan Pinnock, Mason Holgate, Deshaun Bernard, Dexter Lembekisa, John Bell, Tavon Gray, Richard King and Greg Lee. Now in the midfield, Bobby Reid, Casey Palmer, Joel Latiberde, Tyreek McGee and Karoy Anderson. The forwards look like this: Mikel Antonio, Kane Dixon, Demarai Gray, Ronaldo Cephas, Norman Campbell and Romario Williams. Well, Coach McLaren, okay, so before I move on to what he had to say, in the squad there have been notable absentees, and these are Amari Bell, he is carrying a hamstring injury. Shamar Nicholson, he has made a decision that he wants to stay at his club and focus on his fitness, so he is out as well. And Leon Bailey is still dealing with that hamstring injury. Okay, so Coach McLaren was very candid about navigating player injuries when selecting his squad.
Yeah, it's very difficult picking a squad. If you could see the week that we've had, we started with one squad and all of a sudden we ended with a totally different one because of injuries, and that's the nature of being a sports person, a footballer. Injuries are always, the thing that you don't want, and unfortunately we have quite a few. But there's always issues at the start of the season because some have played in Copa like Shamar, some have played in Euros or World Cups or other tournaments, and all of a sudden, they don't have a proper pre-season, they don't get their rhythm. So it's only really as the season goes on, probably November, December, that you see the true form of players.
Now a player long beloved by the Jamaican fan base from his days as one of the best prospects out of the schoolboy football system. Former Jamaica College man Tyreek McGee has been included by McLaren in the squad, with the head coach citing how much of a talent the 25-year-old is.
Yeah, after seeing quite a bit of him, but only on video, on games, but hearing about his reputation and the kind of player he is. I talked before about the three types of groups you need within a squad. You need a leadership group. You need the warriors who will do the yards, the hard work, but you need the talents to win games. And I think Tyreek McGee falls into that talent, has got the ability to change a game. So, when I'm looking at people finishing games, making impact, coming on and winning a game, keeping a game, Tyreek can be one of them players.
All right, so Lance, I was at the press conference earlier today. These absentees are a topic of discussion because one of the things is injuries are something you can't control. It's something that's, inherent. You have to deal with things like that. It's something that you have to always be prepared for in an instance that it occurs. That has happened. Leon Bailey continues to carry that injury. The Shamar Nicholson one for me, where he wants to focus on his fitness. Still, I can't say how I feel about that just yet, but the injuries is something that, I understand. We can't force a player. Their fitness is very, very important. How do you feel about the three players that have been missing and that has been listed?
Well, I think Leon Bailey's absence of the three would be the most significant, and he hasn't played yet for Steve McLaren, so I think fans are anxious to see Leon Bailey back in the squad under the new coach and see what he has to offer and how much the new coach can get out of Leon Bailey. So I think that would be the biggest setback. But he did look a little bit disappointed that he didn't have his full squad to choose from. And luckily, it is not a top CONCACAF opponent that he's facing next week, Thursday. So I believe that the squad that he has named for this assignment is a strong enough squad to get the job done. So I think that is where his head is at, that he can't, wallow in the disappointment of missing some key players that he would have wanted in the squad, and focusing on ensuring that the players named can get the job done.
Yeah, you've followed schoolboy football in Jamaica for a very, very long time. Tyreek McGee, he gets the nod. Are you excited to see how he fits into this setup and how he is able to contribute if given the opportunity?
Yeah, he has long been highly regarded as a playmaker, a lot of physical ball skills in his tools. So he's the type of player, as you heard Coach McLaren just mentioned, that can pull strings and ensure that the runners and the hard workers in the team get the kind of service and the kind of assistance from a player like McGee. So I'm anxious to see what he does here. He plays for the Colorado Springs in the USL Championship. They're currently third in the Western Conference, and he has only had 3 goals, but he has been a key part of their success so far this campaign. And there are a lot of football fans in Jamaica who are disappointed that he hasn't got as many opportunities in the national colours as they think he deserves. Maybe 2 or 3 years ago, he had a couple of outings. So good to see him back, and I'm anxious to see what he has up his sleeve, because Coach McClaren said he has seen him on video, which is not quite the same as coaching him in a real life game. So I get the impression that McClaren wants to see him face to face and see him on the pitch working, and we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah, Coach, when talking about the injuries, made the point that, he started with one squad. Now he's here naming his second squad, and it looks a bit different. Lance, can you see any major changes, it can be positive or negative, from the first squad that was named, how they went about their business, eventually ending with that victory, versus this squad that will be suiting up against Nicaragua and Honduras?
Yeah, well, I would more want to look at the negative side, because as we head toward World Cup qualifying, you want to see the coach have a more settled squad and getting the players who are likely to be playing together as often as possible. So I think that would be the downside of not having all the players at his disposal, because I think for a few cycles in the past, part of the disappointment of the Jamaican trajectory is that they have fiddle around too much with different players and not having a settled squad, and that affects things like chemistry and players gelling and a complete understanding of a unit. And I would like to see, as much as possible between now and the start of World Cup qualifiers, that he has as many opportunities to play the main group that he wants to go into the World Cup qualifiers with, because that will give him the best opportunity to get the players clicking in the way that he wants.
Yeah, if you are to look at the squad named, are there particular players you feel as if, Lance, they must play if the Reggae Boyz are to be competitive? I know I'm putting you on the spot, and it's probably a hard place to be, but just players that you think are sure picks based on what we've seen from the first 2 matches, not from history, but from the first 2 performances.
First 2 performances on a McLaren?
Yes.
Okay, well, I would say Demarai Gray has not been as potent in his last couple of outings as he would have been last year and in previous outings, but I think he's a key player. Offensively, he is the most impactful player that the Jamaica Reggae Boyz have. So I would say that Demarai Gray is a key player. Michael Antonio has a lot of experience playing for West Ham in Premier League football in England, and he's a worker. He's very strong, and he's very hard to handle as a defender, trying to fend him off when he gets into that last attacking third. So I would consider him a key player as well. Casey Palmer was impressive in his outings under McLaren so far, so I'm anxious to see what he has in store for us here. I know you spoke of Lembekisa
yes,
in case you missed it.
Yeah.
Scored a wonderful goal a few months ago in the Jamaican shirt, and hasn't been as impressive since that outing. But you know, I like the fact that Kaheem Dixon is back and getting an opportunity, because he had his first goal for Charlton Athletic a couple of weeks ago, and he's a player. And from a Jamaican standpoint, I think a lot of football fans in the country are anxious to see the products of Jamaican football coming to this platform and doing well. Not that it isn't important for the overseas-based pros to be a part of the setup, but I think there is that much more of an embrace coming from a player who built his career or developed his game locally in schoolboy football and then Premier League football, and getting an opportunity at the highest level. So from that standpoint, I think Kaheem Dixon is a player that a lot of Jamaican fans are anxious to see get playing time and make good use of it.
All right, well, you know, Lance, long press conference earlier today, and after that it was revealed that Jamaica's pursuit of English defender Mason Holgate has borne fruit, with the West Bromwich Albion man very close to securing his Jamaican passport. Coach McClaren was asked about another Englishman's potential switch to the black, green and gold, the former Manchester United prodigy, Mason Greenwood.
He wants to play for Jamaica. He was looking forward to it. The process is the process, and it's taken a long time, and momentum is key in these kind of, you have a certain window, and we're in that window, and we need to take advantage of it.
Yeah, and the JFF president, Michael Ricketts, says that they have a working relationship with the Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency.
Well, we do have a working relationship with PICA. But like you did mention, the process can be very tedious. And again, you did say that for some very simple reasons. And sometimes these reasons we are not aware until weeks, maybe months after. But we have at our disposal both ministers of Sport and Gender Affairs, Minister Grange, and Minister Kamina Johnson. So when we have any major glitch or any major issues, we can always turn to both ministries.
Yeah, and of course he was responding to the concern that some of the members of the media had about, you know, the process that involves getting these players here and ready to represent Jamaica. So Lance, what I'm getting is Mason Greenwood is eager to suit up for the Jamaica Reggae Boyz. That's a big thing in itself. Coach has been having conversations with him. Coach even told me in my piece with him that, you know, he spoke to Mason Greenwood before he took the Jamaica Reggae Boyz job. You know, he has been in conversations with Mason Greenwood. So it's just a matter of time, a matter of process. So how long the process will take, only time will tell.
Yeah, and I'll go back to what I said a couple of minutes ago, that if Mason Greenwood is going to be a part of the Reggae Boyz setup, you would want him in as early as possible. And you would hope that the delay to him being formally a Jamaica international doesn't take too long, because World Cup qualifying starts next year, and there is an opportunity for him to get into the system and understanding his teammates.
Yeah, and the culture too, because he's coming from a different culture.
Yeah.
And I think that plays a key part, you know. You get into a setup and it takes some time for you to get accustomed to what is expected of you. And I get it, you are a professional, but still, you're a human as well. And the place is different. A simple thing as the food is different. The way people speak might be different. So to me, he has to get in here and get comfortable enough to get the best out of him.
Yeah, the plus side, though, Mariah, is that part of the reason why the JFF, I thought, was so anxious to appoint McLaren as the head coach is to deal with some of what you just spoke of.
Yeah.
That the culture change or the kind of adjustments that some of these players would have to make may not be that great, because Mason Greenwood knows McLaren.
Yeah.
He's been coached by McLaren in the past. So if he's coming into a system, albeit a different platform, but the coach is someone he knows, and a lot of his English-based players are familiar with McLaren and his style. That eases that burden of acclimatizing and sort of getting adjusted to the Reggae Boyz setup, simply because they are being guided by a man who knew knew them before he took the Jamaica setup. So I just think that he's anxious to get Mason Greenwood in as quickly as possible so that he can, get some caps in the Jamaica shirt and get himself ready for World Cup qualifiers.
Yeah, well, looking forward to see how long the process takes and, of course, how the Reggae Boyz go about their 2 upcoming fixtures. On that note, we're going to wrap up this segment, take a quick commercial break, and then come right back.